This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games!
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
I need 3 of those things, baby! We ain't done yet! We ain't done yet! You like that? You like that? I like that!
Ruckus and The Menace Sports fam, how is it going? A special thank you to all of the veterans that listen to this particular podcast or watch any of our videos, as today, the night that we are recording this, is Veterans Day. You are watching and listening to number 122 of the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I'm Spenace the Menace.
And I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And on this episode, we will have, to kick it off, the award finalists from the 2024 Major League Baseball season, the Eastwood segment of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We recap Week 10 of the NFL season in the high heat, and the color commentary, where we break down, hopefully, some things that we think we may be asking, is it time for this to happen yet?
Damn straight.
Make our predictions in the film room, and we wrap it up with the usual weekly stud and dud. And Ruckus, I think we just go right into it here, as the MLB Awards finalists have been named, and we will kind of see who we got. We will start with the National League. The finalists for Rookie of the Year: from the Milwaukee Brewers, Jackson Chourio. From the San Diego Padres, Jackson Merrill. And from the Pittsburgh Pirates, Paul Skeens. What you got?
I'm going to go Skeens.
I also am taking Paul Skeens here. For the NL Manager of the Year, from the New York Mets, Carlos Mendoza. From the Milwaukee Brewers, Pat Murphy. And from the San Diego Padres, Mike Shildt.
Is Carlos Mendoza that same manager that got the Nationals to the 2019 World Series?
No.
Okay.
No, that manager was Dave Martinez.
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna have to. So the three were the Mets GM, Padres.
Mets
and
manager, the Padres, and the Brewers.
I'm gonna have to say Brewers.
I'm taking the Padres and Mike Shildt. The NL Cy Young Award winner, from the Atlanta Braves, Chris Sale. From the Pittsburgh Pirates, Paul Skeens. And from the Philadelphia Phillies, Zach Wheeler.
Paul Skeens, all day, every day. Chris Sale had a good comeback story, and what's his bucket that you just said after that?
Zach Wheeler.
No.
As much as I would love to give the Cy Young to Paul Skeens, it has been a really good comeback year for Chris Sale. And Sale, as a left-handed pitcher, and the only lefty among the three finalists, left-handed pitching is pretty deadly. And Chris Sale showed it. I'm taking Chris Sale here for the Cy Young. And then the MVP, do we even need to bother for the National League? As it's Shohei Ohtani, Francisco Lindor, and Ketel Marte from the Dodgers, Mets, and Diamondbacks, respectively. A 50-50 season is not a common occurrence. We know this is unanimously going to go to Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
I'm like, do we really need to? Do I really need to discuss this further?
You know, what'd be really funny is if it was all three of them were just Dodgers for the NL MVP. It's like, would you either Otani, Freeman, or Mookie Betts? But Betts was out for like half the season, so I guess that wouldn't really do much for him. But Freddie Freeman, whoo, had a hell of a
World
postseason.
Series. But yeah, we know that one's going to Otani. The AL Rookie of the Year from the New York Yankees, Austin Wells. From the New York Yankees, Luis Heel. And from the Baltimore Orioles, Colton Cowser.
I thought you were gonna say and for the New York Yankees again. So you're like, damn, okay. Cause you have Luis Gil kinda whatever you pronounce his last name for, had an alright beginning and then it kinda like came down to earth. I wanna say Austin Wells.
Say Colton Cowser. I would love for this award not to go to a Yankee. The AL Manager of the Year from the Tigers. I almost said the Astros, but it's the Tigers. AJ Hinch. The Kansas City Royals, Matt Quatraro.
Yay!
And from the Cleveland Guardians, Stephen Vogt.
Say Matt Quatraro because he went from a season where it was almost one of the worst seasons for the Royals in the franchise history to being one of the better teams in the league. That, I mean, yeah, they didn't really win their division, but they still showed up when it mattered for the most part in the wild card, and then they lost, obviously, to the Yankees, but they had a really good year.
And the next award we have is the AL Cy Young. And it is from the Cleveland Guardians, Emmanuel Clase. From the Kansas City Royals, Seth Lugo. And from the Detroit Tigers, Tarek Skubal.
Why the hell is a closer a Cy Young winner?
Well, if we really want to get into that argument, let's see. I believe Clase also led the majors in saves.
Has there ever really been an MLB closer that has won the Cy Young?
I'm not sure, but I would think that there had been. Well, because Sale was in the lead for wins. Sale was
Eric Gagne
ERA.
was the last MLB closer to win the Cy Young Award in 2003. And the last one after him was Dennis Eckersley in 92.
Yeah. But Clase did lead the American League in saves. The rest of them were all National League in the top 5.
Personally, I think
as
it's
far
Seth
as Major
Lugo.
League, I'm gonna say for me, my pick, I'm taking Tarek Skubal. Led tied with Chris Sale for all the majors in wins. Also on top of that, led the American League and the majors in strikeouts. And was also tops in the American League in ERA. So Tarek Skubal, if you technically want to consider it, he won the AL, the American League, pitching Triple Crown. Yeah, he didn't win the Major League Triple Crown because Chris Sale got him an ERA by 1/100th of a point. Chris Sale had a 2.38 ERA, while Tarek Skubal had a 2.39. Chris Sale also won the NL pitching Triple Crown for starters. So I'm taking Tarek Skubal. And last but not least, the AL MVP. And it is from the New York Yankees, Aaron Judge. From the New York Yankees, the Childish Bambino, Juan Soto. And from the Kansas City Royals, your boy, Bobby Witt Jr. What in the muffled audio?
I don't know what it is. God damn it, Bobby. I tell you what. Is that muffled still, or is it better?
No, that came in clear. That came in much clearer.
I tell you what, Dale. You gotta quit using them same radio signals as I am. I tell you what. Anyways, I think it's pretty damn clear that I want Bobby Witt to win the AL MVP because Aaron Judge looked like a fool with his pants on the ground in the World Series against the Dodgers, and just in general, he was pretty rough in the playoffs. He had his clutch performance in the ALCS against the Guardians, but other than that, like, I think it's fairly clear that Bobby Witt Jr. should get AL MVP for just the season he had altogether. Yeah, things didn't go his way in the ALDS. I mean, not a whole lot went the right way for the Royals after the DS, but I think he showed why the Royals even got to the postseason in the first place.
Okay. Aaron Judge, third in home runs, or third in batting average, league leader in home runs, league leader in runs batted in. Bobby Witt led the league in hits. He was one of only two players, and the only player in the American League. Vlad Jr. missed it by one hit of 200 hits. Was the only player to hit 200 hits. And I'm taking Bobby Witt here too. Why? Because
My man.
if you have two Yankees on the MVP ballot, is your team really that valuable? Is that player really that valuable if you have a second player that is on the MVP list?
Also,
it's going to divide up.
Go ahead.
It's going to divide up the New York voting ballot from many of the New York players that were involved with that.
Speaking of divide, you don't know if Soto's actually going to be a Yankee next year because there's he made it pretty clear that he's not just going to stick with the Yankees. He's listening to all offers for his market, which we'll see what that market entails. But Soto went off compared to Aaron Judge, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm taking Bobby here too. Just simple as that. Keep it straight. Keep it straight up. I believe the MVP should be Bobby Witt because I think we will have some Aaron Judge fatigue. If Aaron Judge wins it, I would not be surprised. But I think this is a year for Bobby Witt. And now we move on to the Eastwood segment. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right. What is good in sports this week, Spenace?
And it will be that the Cincinnati Reds will honor Pete Rose with a 14-hour visitation at Great American Ballpark. And this is for fans, right?
I believe so. Thousands of fans streamed into Great American Ballpark despite steady rain Sunday to pay respects to Pete Rose, baseball's career hits leader who died September 30th at the age of 83. The 4-hour visitation in honor of Pete Rose's jersey number was arranged by the Cincinnati Reds with the cooperation from Rose's daughters, Fawn and Kyra, who exchanged hugs, stories, and even some tears with fans. We wanted to do something like this, said Rick Walls, executive director of Reds Hall of Fame. You can see from the turnout, it means a lot to the people here. It's a moving experience.
Yeah, and I think that was the right thing for the Reds to do. I do applaud this. Do applaud this very much so. And this needs to change. As we move on to the bad for the week. And it is a player that got let go from out of nowhere. Maybe not really completely from out of nowhere, but it came up to us from out of nowhere.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out! Or can't. No.
Seattle Seahawks leading tackler, not left tackle, Ruckus, as this player was an inside linebacker. Tyrel Dodson has been waived. It came after their bye on the heels of 5 losses in 6 games. Mike McDonald said that everything would be on the table as the team self-scouted. Seattle had previously swapped out Jerome Baker for Ernest Jones IV. Baker had been playing weak side but Dodson had moved there for the past 2 games to allow Jones to slide into the middle. Dodson had started in all 9 games. And the Seahawks decided to let him go. Now this gives Seattle an opportunity to pick up and play 4th round pick Tyrese Knight and 2nd-year pro Drake Thomas. So this was a very interesting decision. Now subject to waivers. If he's claimed, the Seattle Seahawks will be off the hook for the $1 million that remains on his contract. Any team that claims Dodson will take on just a little less than half of what remains of the $510,000 that he can make per game roster, as well as the $1.25 million that he can make in incentives. So, this is a very shocking drop for Seahawks, but Seattle is trying to pick up the pieces of what was left of a pretty decent start and try and salvage in what was a little more of a wide open NFC West race. It's starting to not look that way so much anymore because certain other teams are deciding to capitalize and do well now and also get certain players back. But it's just a matter of the redirection for Seattle.
Yep.
And now we move on to the downright ugly this week. Oh my. As if we didn't already have enough ugly things going on involving this person when he was defensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders, assistant or consultant for Luke Fickell in Wisconsin, the senior advisor, Jack Del Rio, is resigning from that position after he was arrested on Friday and cited for OWI, operating a vehicle while intoxicated following a car crash in Wisconsin. He was driving, hit a street sign, broke a fence, and came to a rest in a yard. So it was a single vehicle accident. And Del Rio showed signs of impairment.
Is it me, or does Jack Del Rio kind of look like Scooter McGavin from,
you mean Shooter McGavin?
Yeah.
Yeah, Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore.
Uh-huh.
It's possible. But this just shows that, who was claimed to be the high and mighty, just continues to fall. Del Rio had a great coaching stint in Jacksonville and was doing pretty well when he was with the Raiders, and had at least a couple decent years in Washington. So he's been a coordinator and a former linebacker. But the Badgers are reeling as they lose this defensive knowledge, as they will play Oregon this upcoming weekend, and we will have that on our radar this week. But even though we won't get to it right now, we move on to recapping the week that was in the NFL season with the high heat. And the first game involved will be the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Denver Broncos off of a blocked field goal, 16-14. And the question for this game is, will Ruckus finally admit that he has underestimated the Broncos?
I will indirectly say yes to that, because of the fact that, yes, I probably said something along the lines of we're going to crush the Broncos, but it's a rivalry game, and I've said this shit before about in the past, not even through the podcast, just in general. I would tell my parents, like, oh, we're gonna crush them, no big deal, and then all of a sudden it's super close, and I'm just like, well, shit, I just shot myself in the foot. I underestimated the Broncos, but at the same time, I didn't see their defense doing all that much against Mahomes and the offensive line, but obviously that was exposed pretty heavily this game, as both teams were like punting the ball a lot, and also both the teams were not so good on offense. I mean, yeah, the Broncos are fairly scary, but I thought the game was lost once they got to like 2 seconds left in the game and they're going for the field goal. I thought we were screwed and we were going to 8-1, and my bold prediction of the Chiefs going undefeated into the month of December was perhaps going to be I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the Chiefs altogether probably would have, my whole prediction would have been under wraps if they lost yesterday, but luckily they didn't. I was very surprised, like many other Chiefs fans, and somewhat happy. it still hasn't hit me that we won because of the fact that it feels like a dream. Like, even if I pinch myself, it's gonna hurt because it's not a dream, but goddamn, we got away with it again. And as Jesse Pinkman would say on Breaking Bad, they can't keep getting away with it! That was probably a really bad interpretation of Aaron Paul, but yeah.
But
Anyways.
I will say this. I thought this game was going to be close. And that is because the Chiefs have been playing, dare I say it, below the usual standard that is held to a team with an 8-0 record. Yes, I said below the standard. But they are winning games ugly. They've been doing it all year. They've been finding the right ways to win at the time that they need it to. The timeliness of when things have happened has worked out in their favor for now. But I think that this may very well have put Patrick Surtain in... Could very well put Patrick Surtain in that greatest cornerback in the game, or at least the best one in the league right now. But another note here on the next game that we have, the Pittsburgh Steelers come in and beat the Washington Commanders at home 28-27. Are the Steelers a better team than where we thought they would be back at the beginning of the season?
I'm still a little skeptical. Yeah, dude, I didn't think there was a damn chance in hell that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be as good as they seem right now. But I want to see some more action out of Russell Wilson and company because, personally, I didn't really pay much attention to that game. I was more so just focused on the Broncos Chiefs and then just kind of took a minute to relax from the craziness. So, I don't know. Are they the better team than we thought? Perhaps, but I'm not going to say it definitively right now because I'm still not sure about that.
Am I going to say that they are a better team than where we thought they would be back at the beginning of the season? Absolutely. But they are a better team that division-wise still has not been tested. 10 weeks into the season, and Pittsburgh has not played a divisional opponent yet. No Baltimore, no Cincinnati, no Cleveland. This is weird in terms of the NFL structure of the schedule. But Pittsburgh will get their first major test of this next week as they take on the Baltimore Ravens. However, I think that Pittsburgh in this game, I am going to say it, the referees blew the spot. They botched the spot on that fourth down play. They sent the whole thing a whole yard back from where the catch was even made. Where the catch was even made and Zach Ertz was making the turn. They set the ball at the 42. It was at the 41 the entire time. It was a whole yard back. That's why the review was put in, because it was right on the 41. A booth review can't change the spot of the football? Or at least you're going to all of a sudden say that it stands? Because your spot guy for it was absolute doggy doo-doo? Spot guy doesn't know how to count yards? This was just a sign that something was going to go left for the Commanders. And now we have to take this into a short week against the Eagles, who just took a thumping to the Cowboys. Or at least just thumped them. But Dallas is garbage. And now we have to take on the best team in the NFC East for the first time of our 2 games. Just simply because Amazon Prime gets us. But it was a controversial spot because it was absolutely, like, I was seeing that as a Commanders fan. I'm like, that is absolutely terrible. Like, I'm looking at the spot, and they spotted this whole thing. I'm like, he's a whole yard off. You can even see the referee running, and they set the ball a whole yard off. And it was blatant. But
yeah, I have no
with all of that aside, 49ers 23, Bucks 20. Now that Christian McCaffrey has returned, are the 49ers setting forth on a course in the right direction toward winning the NFC West?
I think with the momentum they do have a definite shot as long as Christian McCaffrey and the others stay healthy, because that has been their Achilles heel over the past couple of years, especially after they lost the Super Bowl. The next year they had a lot of hurt players, and I think they're trying not to repeat history with that notion. So I think that now that CMC has returned, I think they do have a good chance.
I think they could be charting themselves toward a playoff spot for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Winning the NFC East, I think it's going to come down to a couple of other key games that are going to get involved here, especially that second matchup between the next team we are going to discuss here, and that is the Arizona Cardinals defeating the New York Jets 31-6. Other drubbing. And the question is can the Cardinals continue the winning momentum to win the NFC West for the first time since 2015?
I think. Let's see here. Let's look at their schedule.
Okay, so how far do you want me to push ahead?
I was gonna look at the schedule to determine what.
Oh no, I have it. I have it in front of me. And it is their next 3 are the slumping Seahawks, after a bye, because they'll have a bye in week 11. The slumping Seahawks, the slumping Vikings, and the slumping Seahawks. Then they have the Patriots, the Panthers, and the Rams before that final matchup with the 49ers.
I think they do have a good shot as long as they keep their winning destiny going. I think it probably helps also that they're facing a team that is having like a midlife crisis, or would we even say that's a midlife crisis for Aaron Rodgers, or would we say that's more of a 3/4 life crisis for the manager, Woody Johnson, or whatever his name is?
I'm gonna say a team that is very much with a quarterback that is, yes, I'm gonna say this about Aaron Rodgers, washed up.
Did we even discount double check that?
I think the Jets needed to double check on their discount.
Is it the Aaron Rodgers perfect price plan or whatever they say to Patrick Mahomes? Like,
now we're getting into the bad Aaron Rodgers jokes. But I think the Cardinals can get there so long as they're able to keep their momentum going. The Seahawks have the Vikings, they have the Seahawks, Vikings, and Seahawks. So they get Seattle in 2 of the next 3. They go into the 12th man this week, or their next game, with 2 weeks to prepare. Then they go to the Vikings, and then play the Seahawks in the desert. I think if they get through their next 5 games, winning at least 3 of their next 5, I think it's going to come down to the wire, division-wise, between the 49ers and the Vikings. Or at least the 49ers and the Cardinals. But here's what San Francisco has next for their next 5. The Seahawks. The slumping Seahawks. The Packers. The do we really want to win Bills? The Bears. And then the Rams before having Miami and Detroit before taking on the Arizona Cardinals. I think the road for the 49ers is tougher, as there are still a couple of really good teams left for the 49ers to play. They still got to get through Green Bay, they still got to get through Buffalo, and they still have Detroit on the schedule. And that Detroit game on top of that is on Monday Night Football. So I think right now, so long as the Cardinals keep winning, I think that the distance sets themselves up. And we may have been more wrong. Like, I knew we were badly wrong about the Broncos, but I think that we may even more so be wrong about the Arizona Cardinals, as I called for Jonathan Gannon to be fired, I think, at a certain point, and this whole thing has shut me up.
all right, next one.
Yep, and the last one, the Detroit Lions on a Jake Bates field goal, Mr. Kicking Clutch of 2024, defeats the Houston Texans 26-23. And the question is, does the road to the Super Bowl for the NFC go through Detroit?
It's sure looking like it, Cotton. We'll see how this goes for him.
I am going to say absolutely. The only thing that could happen with the Detroit Lions that we would say this absolutely does not is if there is somehow a much larger collapse than what we realize. But here are the next few games for Motor City Dan Campbell's squad. The Jacksonville Jaguars. The Indianapolis Colts. A short week and Thanksgiving Day against the Chicago Bears. The second matchup on Sunday Night Football with the Green Bay. Actually, that might even be Monday Night Football. No, Amazon Prime, because Christmas is on a Wednesday this year. So that's an Amazon Prime game. So they're going to get 2 Thursday games in a row. With the after the Chicago Bears, they play the Green Bay Packers. 10 days to rest up for Buffalo. Then Chicago, then 8 days after that game to then play the 49ers on Monday Night Football. I think that the road to the Super Bowl goes through Detroit for the NFC. And I think so long as the Lions stay healthy, it's not only going to go through Detroit as far as the NFC goes, I think that Detroit is going to have themselves, I think they could be very poised for their first ever Super Bowl appearance. Because it is about time for them to make a Super Bowl. And what better time for the 49ers to find their way, or for the Lions to find their way, than this season? And I think we wouldn't have it any other way. And speaking of is it time? It's time to move on to the color commentary, where that is our where that is the very question. Is it time for these following things to happen? Is it time for the Indianapolis Colts to turn back to Anthony Richardson at starting quarterback?
I think if this season is washed for the Colts, then you put them back in, and then put Joe Flacco in to be the man that pretty much comes in the fourth quarter if things go south for Anthony Richardson. But I don't know. I really don't care what the Colts do at this point on offense. Their offense in general is just not all there. Kenny Moore even said it during a press conference post game for the Colts, and I saw the Pat McAfee show talk about it a little bit, and it just seems like the Colts don't know what the hell they want to do.
I think that I'm going to say this. If you are trying to throw the football, if your offensive philosophy involves throwing the football, Anthony Richardson is not the quarterback for you. The Colts have said that Joe Flacco will start this Sunday against the Jets. So Joe Flacco is still the guy in Indianapolis right now. And I think the throwing of the football is got to be the solid decision for the Colts going forward. Still hand the ball off and run with Jonathan Taylor. But I think that the Colts do need to honestly have really a major. The offense needs a facelift, but I think it's that the Colts really, I think this draft need to pursue a quarterback. Trade Anthony Richardson for an asset. Get him to somewhere that could probably either use a mobile quarterback or some other quarterback whisperer that is not Shane Steichen. Because this Anthony Richardson thing, in a real sense, is a flop. This has come back and backfired on the Colts. It's becoming like a Keely Smith all over again. And this wasn't... It's not Jamarcus Russell bad, but it's at least a quarterback that can't perform as a quarterback because he can run the football but is not effective throwing it. Anthony Richardson probably should not have even come out of college or even been really an NFL quarterback. Honestly, ship him off to Canada. Get him in the Canadian Football League. Turn him into a quarterback there. And then if he thrives, somewhere in the NFL can eventually say, hey, we want this guy back for a little bit. Yeah, I think the real solution here for Anthony Richardson, it's time for the Colts to ship him off to Canada.
Or the UFL.
There is that too, but I think he'd better be a better beneficiary in Canada.
You're not my buddy, guy. You're not my guy, buddy. All right, guy. Bye, buddy.
Beside the point. But is it time for Mike McCarthy to be fired as Dallas Cowboys head coach? Jerry Jones has said he's not going to do it this right now.
I think Jerry Jones needs to just commit seppuku at this point, because he is so delusional. It's not even funny.
Jerry Jones hasn't even been relevant as a Cowboys owner since the 90s.
Caleb has more
There has
rings
been
than Jerry
there
Jones
has
right
been
now.
absolutely nothing involving success with the Dallas Cowboys since 1995. And on top of that, it was due to Jerry Jones pretty much throwing Jimmy Johnson out of Dallas. And Jimmy Johnson was honestly the real coach of the Cowboys that was getting it done. So Jerry Jones has not been relevant since he made the fatal flaw of kicking Jimmy Johnson out of Dallas. Simple as that. And bringing in Mike McCarthy was not the right fit coaching-wise. Back to the drawing board for you. And this even includes your Jerry World Stadium too. We'll get to that later. But back to the drawing board. Next one. Is it time for Aaron Rodgers to retire at the end of this season?
He might get a job with RFK in politics later. We'll see, but I think he should retire at the end of this season.
Even though, yes, Aaron Rodgers, it's time for him to retire at the end of this season. This, and you've heard me say it multiple times before, that should have been done about over 365 days ago. He should have retired at the end of last season. After tearing the Achilles. Because, yeah, you're a washed up 40-year-old quarterback that is not going to manage to find a way to revive and resurrect your career at this age for a team. Tom Brady, you are not Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Tom Brady could only get away with that because he was kept upright for most of his career. Aaron Rodgers couldn't necessarily get away with that because for a good amount of his career, he also spent a good amount of time getting hit, as Green Bay did not have the offensive line. So yes, Aaron Rodgers, retirement should be calling your name. Father Time is undefeated. Next one. Is it time for Bryce Young to remain the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers?
More than Red Rifle, Mr. Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton.
So I think he should remain their QB, and David Tepper just needs to control his temper. His temper, I should say.
Well, the Carolina Panthers have won their last 2 football games. Bryce Young has been... I'm going to probably have to look at the stat line for... I think I'm going to have to look at the stat line for this game with the Giants. kind of see where he was at because Daniel Jones led the game pass. I mean, 15 to 25 for 126 yards and a touchdown and no picks. Granted that the game has mostly been relied on the running game, especially through the hands of Chuba Hubbard. Bryce Young also had two carries for 30 yards. So, really, Bryce Young, has he gotten better since his benching? At a net, yes. Carolina's winning. But consider the two opponents that Carolina was playing. The Saints, who are a team that's kind of had the wheels fall off, and the Giants, who are kind of another team that has had the wheels falling off. The next game for the Carolina Panthers is the Kansas City Chiefs, a team who has not necessarily had the wheels falling off, but has kind of had a little bit of a rough go of it in being able to keep a whole lot of dominance sustainable. They haven't been winning in that dominant fashion. So I think if the Carolina Panthers can take advantage of the mistakes and Bryce Young is able to find some way to look like he was a Heisman Trophy winner at Alabama, instead of being a shell of a quarterback that he is in the NFL, maybe the Carolina Panthers stand a chance. And Bryce Young could stick around. But I think Carolina needs to pivot from him. I don't think that this is sustainable, and I don't think Bryce Young is the right quarterback for Dave Canales to be the quarterback whisperer for. He could get away with that a little bit more with Baker Mayfield, but Bryce Young is no Baker Mayfield. And on top of that, Bryce Young, I think, is going to be a good backup somewhere. It's just not going to be Carolina.
Yeah.
And now on the counterpart, is it time for Danny Dimes to be benched?
Yeah, I think, if anything, there should be some dead cap from the Giants. And they should cut Daniel Jones. They should cut their losses. He's not very good. And he has never been very good.
He has shown time and time again that he was not worth being the 6th overall pick in the 2019 NFL draft. He has shown that he is absolutely not worth the value. But let's get a little bit of a closer look here and see who and what quarterbacks right after Daniel Jones were taken. Okay, Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace. And it took forever to find a quarterback that would get taken in this draft. You had Will Grier. He's not even in the he's not even on a team anymore. He's not on a team anymore. Ryan Finley. He's not even on a team anymore.
Who the hell is Ryan Finley?
It was a quarterback.
Never heard of
the
him.
2019 Jarrett Stidham. He's the backup quarterback for the Broncos. So yes, the 2019 NFL draft, the best quarterback out of that draft class is a benched quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. And that is Gardner Minshew. A 6th round pick. And the only quarterback on this list, draft-wise, that has had some sort of significance. And I believe that special mark would say that Minshew made a Pro Bowl? This is a Pro Bowl that Gardner Minshew made? Yeah, Gardner Minshew made a Pro Bowl as a 6th round pick. So basically Daniel Jones was not even worth it to begin with. Especially because there was a quarterback drafted 5 rounds later that was better than him and got to a Pro Bowl. I believe Daniel Jones, I don't think he got I know he didn't get a 5th-year option.
I thought he got extended for a couple of years.
So I'm double checking here. Yeah, he's not a free agent until 2027. And the Giants, honestly, well, here's where the dead cap comes in. He has a $22 million cap hit of dead cap in 2025 and an $11 million hit in 2026. So yeah, he's making $30 million next year, a $9 million signing bonus, and $2 million on a restructure. $500,000 on the workout bonus. He has a cap hit of $41 million next season, and then a hit of $58 million the year after that. So honestly, even though the Giants have said, hey, we have hope for you in being able to extend you, Brian Daboll is not even the coach for it. And I think the Giants should honestly look hard and actually really invest their time in trying to draft a quarterback that will replace the bum. Next one. Is it time for the Jacksonville Jaguars to put Trevor Lawrence on the IR for the season and shut him down?
I'd say it's better to be safe than sorry, but also, like, at this point, you fire Doug Peterson and then put Lawrence on IR.
I think it's time for that too. To fire Doug Peterson. But on top of that, I think that yes, because it is a shoulder injury, the season is already lost for the Jaguars. The only thing they can really do at this point is possibly play spoiler for something, but they're not even good enough to do that right now. And trust me, I swear I feel like it's like Jason from The Good Place all over again, where he's like, the Jaguars are relevant. No, they're not. They're relevant. Duval. Have you even seen The Good Place?
Not really.
Oh my gosh. It is a very... It is a good... Like, it's really good. It's only lasted a few seasons, but it was funny. Like, it was funny, especially because one guy's a delusional Jaguars fan. But it was set right around when Blake Bortles was relevant. And,
Oh God.
and the guy... Yes! He was like delusional to the point that he was hyping up Blake Bortles. Now that's a name that again will not find its way back into the NFL. But beside the point, the last two involve the Chicago Bears. Is it time for Matt Eberflus to be fired? And is it time for Caleb Williams to be benched?
I think if one thing happens, it's probably going to be Eberflus gets fired before Williams gets benched. You have a guy that you that you drafted number one just to potentially bench him. That's kind of silly. But Eberflus, not really. This is his first year, correct? Or second year?
No, I think Eberflus has been there for at least 2, possibly even 3 years.
Yeah, I would get rid of Eberflus and find a coach that is willing to work more with Caleb Williams. Maybe Lincoln Riley could do that, but there's no way in hell Lincoln Riley is going to go to the Bears.
Right now, I will say this. The Chicago Bear offense is sputtering. They are sputtering. Caleb Williams. So let's look at the game log for Caleb Williams. We're going to talk over the last... How far back do you want me to go here? The last 3 games?
Yeah, I would just do... Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. So his last 3 games, all losses. Against the Commanders, 10 for 24 for 131 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. The Arizona Cardinals, 22 of 41, 217 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. And then the 19-3 loss to the New England Patriots, 16 for 30 for 120 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Was sacked 9 times. Then was sacked 6 times against Arizona and sacked 3 times against the Commanders. He's been sacked 38 times this season, has 9 touchdowns, 5 picks, and granted that, yes, he has 1,700 yards, 785 yards passing. And this is considering that his best game was a 363-yard passing day against the Indianapolis Colts. The Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron offense is not working with Caleb Williams at quarterback. The Bears have committed to it, but I would say if this season goes worse for worse, and Caleb Williams eventually gets hurt, I think you turn the reins over to Tyson. I think Tyson Bagent could run this offense somewhat effectively. It's possible. But Caleb Williams is, granted, is he bad? No. Has he been absolutely awful this season? No. I think there's just been not a lot of the offense is sputtering. The Bears need a real change. And I think that the Bears front office and Ryan Poles is taking absolutely too long in making change. Simple as that. Eberflus needs to be fired. Have Waldron go with him. And really, the specialty of the Bears has always been to have a defensive head coach. But this is a team where the best weapons and stuff are on the offense. And you have a defensive head coach? This doesn't work. Dan Quinn is showing you that this may be more of the exception of having a defensive head coach with a great quarterback than it is the norm. Let's move to the film room.
I'll just say, let's move in. All right.
And the scoring update going into the film room this week. Spenace came up by 24 points. And there is a grand total of 10 points up for grabs in college football. And 13 points up for grabs in the NFL this week. And our first game in the college football ranks is Clemson versus Pitt in an ACC matchup. 2 points.
I'm going to pick Pitt.
Go Tigers! I'm taking Clemson. Especially after last week, the Clemson Tigers made Virginia Tech do the hokey chokey. Yes. And if you missed that last week, where I put the hokey chokey in the form of the hokey pokey, you gotta beat that. You gotta get a view of that. And the next one, for 2 points, Cincinnati versus Iowa State, not Ohio State. The Ohio school versus the Iowa school. Cincinnati, Iowa State in the Big 12. Who you got?
I think it's going to be an upset and Cincinnati's going to win.
I've got my faith here in Rocco Becht. I'm taking Iowa State. The next 2-pointer. We just had some things mentioned of this earlier. Oregon, Wisconsin.
Quack, 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 quack.
Quack,
quack,
quack, quack, quack,
quack,
quack,
quack, quack, quack, quack.
We're both taking the Ducks.
We skipped on Tennessee, Georgia, BT Dubs.
Well, I was leaving that as the main event because it's the 4-pointer. Tennessee, Georgia, who you got?
I got the absolute dogs. I got the Bulldogs against the Tennessee Volunteers. Or over the Tennessee Volunteers, I should say.
You know, this SEC season has been really, really weird. And let's kind of see where all of this is going on. You have that Alabama beat Georgia, who Tennessee beat Alabama. Where in the world is this going to math out the way that it needs to? If Tennessee is going to prove that they are the best team in the SEC, which I think they very well could be at this point. The math has got to math. Tennessee over Georgia.
They're incredible.
The math has to math somewhere. It's gotta add up somewhere.
Math is math, Jax. Or Dax, I don't remember. Okay. Now we go into the NFL.
And now, the NFL. And we are going to start with our one-pointer. Green Bay versus Chicago. I think we know exactly where this is going.
The Bears. I know we literally just spent 20 minutes talking about... I know we just talked about... Or you talked about the Bears for like 20 minutes about how they're falling apart. But...
And how many beers in are you in this podcast?
Just the two. I think... Anything can happen in this league. I'm picking the Bears. And yeah, I'll put a foot in my mouth this time, deeper than I did when I was talking about the Chiefs crushing the Broncos. So,
Oh. And here's where I'm at here. Dun 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 dun. Go Pack, go! Dun 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 dun. Go Pack, go! I'm taking the Packers, especially since Green Bay had 2 weeks to prepare for this game, even though it's at Soldier Field. I don't care. I don't care. 2 weeks to prepare. You're well rested. You're well rested and preparing to play for against your arch rival ball club. Oh yeah, I'm taking the Packers here. And now on to our 2-pointers, where it's Buffalo and Kansas City. This one is being played at Highmark Stadium.
Historically, stat-wise speaking, the Chiefs have not lost at Highmark. So I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Buffalo Bills, even if it's a regular season game against the Bills. Historically, we've been
the biggest thing that I absolutely would have to hope for, and I almost picked Buffalo here, is that if Buffalo wins this game, I hope they don't lose it. And I think this would be the ultimate way that they don't lose it, is I just hope they just don't lose it in the most Buffalo Bills way possible.
Wide right.
Wide right, yep. Because what happened last year? Wide right. What's prevented them from winning a Super Bowl in their history?
Wide right.
Wide right.
It's like that scene. It's like that scene in Moneyball where Bill A. Bean is like, "What does he do?" And then he
gets on base. Gets on base. Yep. But as I think we had this debate, I think in the postseason last year, like earlier this calendar year, the 2 worst words that you can say to a Buffalo Bills fan to trigger them: wide right. I mean, 13 seconds is also close. Or was it 7 seconds?
13.
13 seconds? All right. Yeah, I got that right. I know that there's some different ones. I know in the NBA, the Reggie Miller's infamous thing with the Knicks was 8.9 seconds. I think Tracy McGrady had another one that was like a certain amount of time. And then Kansas City had the drive against the Bills in 13 seconds. But I think the worst one is wide right. The next 2-pointer. The Atlanta Falcons and Kirko Chains go to Mile High to take on the Denver Broncos.
I think it's a home field advantage for Mile High. I'm taking the Broncos over the Falcons.
I'm going Rocky Mountain High. Thank you, John Denver, for another reference there. But in that sense, I am going with the Denver Broncos as well. As Surtain is continuing to show that he's one of the best corners in the league.
He's definitely certain about that.
And Mile High, and it is a chore to have to go into Denver and play well in elevation, especially if you're not well suited for it. That's tough sledding. Granted that teams can do it, but I think that the Denver Broncos have kind of one of the best ways around it. I'm taking the Broncos here because they train in it. The next one is the Thursday nighter on Amazon Prime. The Commanders versus the Eagles. This one at Lincoln Financial Field.
I'm going to say it's going to be the Eagles. Home field advantage should help the Eagles, but you never know. It's a rivalry game. But I'm still picking the Eagles.
At a point where 4 points on the line, I think I can afford a risky pick. And don't forget what happened the last time Washington went into Philadelphia and had a shot at it, and Sirianni, I think, went mental.
Yeah.
Or at least there was a potential Eagles collapse. It involved the Washington Commanders. I'm taking the Commanders in this one, especially if the Eagles can all of a sudden combust on it. And I want momentum. I want a win with momentum going into next week, especially because next week I say the words, "We want Dallas!" And we want to beat them bad. I would love to see Washington pull a Detroit and get a hook and ladder to an offensive lineman against the Cowboys. Too bad I don't think it'll happen, but I would love to see Dallas just get embarrassed by Washington so bad next week. But I want momentum going into that game to say, "We want Dallas."
Yep.
And the next one here, another arch rival divisional matchup. The Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who you got here? It's 4 points.
I got the Ravens because they're showing right now that their offense is explosive, and I think as long as they can get past the Pittsburgh defense, they should have a good chance.
I think that Baltimore they have all the tools to make this happen. And Baltimore has shown it time and time and time again this season. Especially to win that bonkers of a game against the Bengals. Granted that probably a good amount of penalties should have been called against the Ravens, but neither here nor there. But I take the Ravens here as well. And now we close out the pod with the stud and dud of the week. Ruckus, where are we starting?
Alright, I'm gonna go with my stud and then my dud, like a normal human being. So, my stud for this week is Leo Chanel.
That's supposed to mean? What is that supposed to mean?
You know, I didn't think
when
that
have
far
we
ahead.
ever not done it the other way around?
Opposite day. Or April Fool's Day. We did everything opposite. We, did it backwards, I think, didn't we?
We did the whole show we did the whole episode backwards, but it wasn't to the point of it being this bad. Like I don't think we did dud then stud for that. I think we still went stud dud as normal.
All right.
We didn't go completely backwards, but that's beside the point.
All right. So, anyways, my stud for this episode is Leo Chanel for blocking the field goal that gave the Chiefs the undefeated streak staying alive. And then my dud for this week is Wander Franco being arrested in the Dominican Republic over an altercation with some other people, and also pulling a gun on the people that he was in an altercation with over a woman. So that I don't know what the hell to say about Wander Franco. He is just digging himself a deeper hole than what Deshaun Watson ever did. My God.
All right, my stud this week. Former St. James of Hagerstown alum and now Houston Texans wide receiver John Mechie III, catching his first touchdown pass of his career, but it comes in a special way. 2 years ago, just before his rookie season began, Mechie was diagnosed with acute pyromyelocystic leukemia that caused him to miss his rookie season. He played most of the year last year, but did not get a touchdown catch. Last night against the Detroit Lions, he got it. He got his touchdown just before the Detroit Lions rallied and won the game. But the moment the stud, I nearly went and gave it to the Vikings safety. What was it, Cam Bynum? That just impersonated the ray gun dance to a T. But that dead horse has already been. I believe it was Cam Bynum. Yeah. Yeah, it was Cameron Bynum. Yeah, he did the tribute to Ring. But the problem is that the internet has beaten that dead horse to the ground and murdered it and did it all over again. So I am not giving Cameron Bynum the stud of the week or an honorable mention at this point, because that horse has been demolished and destroyed. But my dud this week goes to Dallas Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb for his whining and complaining and slamming the Jerry World Stadium, AT&T Stadium, which we also call Jerry World, following dropping a touchdown pass as he lost it in the sun. It's claimed that the curtains at AT&T Stadium have been used for other events, and he was wanting the curtains to be up whenever the Cowboys play games in the stadium. This all has happened just a few short months ago. He signed a contract extension to play. Where else? In Dallas, where he has to play in that stadium where he can lose the football in the sun in the fall, especially at these 4:00 games at this particular time of year and day. So in short, CeeDee Lamb, suck it up, Buttercup. You made your bed as far as that. You gotta play it out and lie in it at this point.
Here comes the sun.
Ruckus, take
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a Ruckus and The Menace sports production, episode number 122 of Ruckus and The Menace Sports Pod. I am Ruckus, always cousin of Ruckus.
And I'm Spenace the Menace.
And thanks for that abrupt pause. We'll see you guys in the next one.
What else were you expecting me to do?
I don't know. Anyways, deuces.
You just let that die. Deuces.